I love physical media, whether it's books or movies or collected TV shows. I like having things physically in my possession as opposed to needing an online subscription every time I want to watch one of my favorite shows or go back and do a reread of a book that I like. And I would say my favorite medium to collect is absolutely physical books. And today I wanted to talk about most of the comic books that I have between DC and Marvel. There's a lot of different ways to collect comic books. I am a very big proponent of collecting single issues every week on New Comic Book Day, but I also really love to see those issues compiled into trade paperbacks, compendiums, omnibuses, and seeing how different events and storylines are mapped in those bigger collected editions. I'm going to share all the books that I have within the big two, so DC and Marvel, across my two main bookshelves. We're going to start off with my DC Trinity bookshelf, which is the only one that I have in my room. The reason for that is I just really love Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. And Batman being my favorite character, he could basically have a bookshelf all to himself. But what I've done here is I have Batman stories ordered chronologically in terms of timeline progression. So generally, you can read it left to right, top to bottom, and you'll get everything you need in order. That's just kind of how I wanted to organize Batman. And then, I'll pick out a few of those to talk about, and then we'll move down to the bottom shelf, which is the rest of the Bat fam, as well as Superman and Wonder Woman stories. So to get into Batman, I feel like there's no better way than Long Halloween and Dark Victory. You can't go wrong there. Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb as a duo are probably the best creative team of all time. I think the art of Tim Sale complements Jeff Loeb's storytelling so well. We're never going to get something like that again, I don't think. And I have a few editions of that. So I have the soft cover for Haunted Night, Long Halloween, Dark Victory. I've got the regular deluxe hardcovers over here, and then I have the Omni. And then I have some absolute editions for that as well, but we'll get to that later. Not within continuity, really, but one of my favorite stories, my favorite comic book of all time, is The Dark Knight Returns. I just have my Batman shelf starting off with the Frank Miller stuff because I love this story so much. I think if you want to get into comics, it's one of those stories you want to read so you have a good understanding of what comics are capable of, because a lot of people think that comics are for children. And I think reading The Dark Knight Returns is going to give you the perspective that it's a much deeper and more meaningful art form than just being like a picture book. Moving on, we've got a lot of iconic stories. I threw in Dark Patterns here recently because that was awesome early in Batman's career. We have Year One, obviously, Batman and Robin Year One, Batman the Demon Trilogy, Killing Joke, Death in the Family, going to Arkham Asylum, Batman the Cult, Batman Ego, we got Nightfall, the Paul Dini run in Omni format, then Batman Fugitive Turn or Murderer Turn Fugitive, and then going into one of the most popular stories, I have Batman Hush. Personally, not a fan, but you got to have this one as a Batman fan. Continuing with Under the Red Hood, and then making our way to Grant Morrison's debut on Batman in 2006. I have the full set of Morrison's run in those like mini omnis, and it's awesome. If you want to get into Batman, you want the introduction to Damian Wayne. There's really no better place to dive into reading. Gonna move down a little bit, but next up we got the Scott Snyder stuff. Got some Black Mirror down here, and then almost his entire run with Greg Capullo in trades. But I also have the Volume 1 and Volume 2 omnibuses. They're beautiful. I think it's probably the best way to collect his run because there would be a lot of trades if you wanted to do those individually. So getting it in that format, they look great on the bookshelf. Really awesome. Next call out, super underrated, I think, is Batman and Robin by Tomasi. This Omni is awesome. A lot of Damian and Bruce Wayne relationship action in here, especially since previous to this, we were getting stories with Dick Grayson and Damian as the dynamic duo. So this is a great omnibus to get the father-son relationship aspect. Unfortunately, I did buy the Batman by Tom King Omni, Volume 1. I don't think I'm going to get Volume 2, even though I am a hardcore collector. But yeah, I mean, we have it now. It's there. Nothing we can do about it. Moving on from that, I have my last, I would say, good mainline Batman collected editions. Don't have them open right now just because I just got them and I read them in a different format. But Batman by Tynion is a major call out in the modern era of Batman because I feel like there has been a lot of fumbles in Batman in recent years. And even though Tynion's run wasn't revolutionary, going from Detective Comics to Batman, it's definitely very good. And if you're looking for Batman stories that you feel are very well written, the art is great, and you just want something to read, Tynion's run is perfect for that. I think my last call out for Batman is on the Detective Comics side. The last person before the current writer, who is Tom Taylor, unfortunately, on Detective Comics, was Ram V. His Gotham Nocturne series is amazing, super underrated. There's an omnibus for his entire 5-volume run coming out next month. So I'm super excited for that. But this is probably, I would say, the most underrated comic book of all time for a mainstream character. Genuinely very, very good. Highly recommend. Then we're finally moving down to the bottom of the bookshelf. This one's a little bit messier because it's not all Batman. It's got his Bat Fam in there. We got a lot of Nightwing as the main call out. I do have both of the Omnis. Not the biggest fan of Tom Taylor's run, but the Omnis are beautiful, and I just had to have them as a collector. Then moving on, we have more current Nightwing, and then 3 out of 4, Red Hood and the Outlaws Rebirth. That's one of my favorite runs to read. I know it's objectively not the greatest. Scott Lobdell is not an amazing writer by any means, but it's such a fun run. I just want to collect all of that. And then moving on to Superman, we've got a lot of the iconic stories. All-Star Superman. And probably one of my favorite comic books of all time, Superman for All Seasons. Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale. Not a surprise here, but it's just such a great standalone story for Superman. Helps you understand who he is as a character as well as providing a great story. Got Birthright, some of the Jeff Johns stuff. And then moving on to Wonder Woman. I have a bunch of the George Perez trades for Wonder Woman going into the modern age. This is a modern retelling of Wonder Woman. You should not go further back past this run. Start here and then do your Wonder Woman reading after that. We have one of the Omnis for that. And then the next amazing point to start reading for Wonder Woman is the original Wonder Woman run by Greg Rucka. So that was early 2000s. That's awesome. And then after that, pretty much the only major call out is Wonder Woman Rebirth. Rebirth is amazing. It's getting an Omni soon. I'm going to collect that. And I don't know where it's going to go because I'm running out of space. But yeah, that's the Bat Fam bookshelf. So we're going to move on to the other DC and then Marvel bookshelf out in the hallway. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. The pride and joy of my collection, the Absolute section. So no, we're not talking about like the Absolute Universe. We're talking about DC Absolute Editions. These are the absolutely top end hardcover sleeved versions of the most iconic stories that DC has. I have a bunch of the Batman ones, and then as I mentioned, Superman for All Seasons is super awesome. I guess I'll just show one of these. Absolute Batman Year One. Year One is one of my favorite stories, one of the most iconic DC stories. And the cool thing about this one is it features both prints of Year One in 2 different printing styles and like coloring, I guess textures, one being the original and then one being the remaster. So it's kind of hard for me to tell too much of a difference, but there is a difference. Some people really care. I'm more so just love collecting this sort of stuff, and you get a lot of cool like extra art, scripts, and work from the creative team in these Absolute editions. So if you really love a story, this is the best way to collect them, to really get everything. Now we're in the hallway. We're out of my room, and we're gonna finish up the video with my second DC Marvel bookshelf with the rest of my stuff outside of the DC Trinity. Got some Funkos there. Started collecting that. That's a really bad addiction. I guess we'll get started with the DC stuff since we already kind of went through some of that. Instead of continuity order, I am actually just doing alphabetical for pretty much everything here. So DC going from here with the absolute stuff in the last year or two, and a few different editions, going down here, ending with Zatanna, A to Z. And then I have all my DC compacts kind of just stacked over here. I love DC compacts. If you're looking to get into comics and you don't know what to read, you don't really have a character you want to focus on, DC compacts are the best way and super affordable way to read the most iconic stories that DC has published pretty much ever. Like they'll publish really old stories, so like Long Halloween 30 years ago, they have that, and they'll publish new ones too. Like Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, that's like only 3 years old, and they have that in compact already. So I would say browse through the catalog of compacts, see what potentially you hear good things about, what character might resonate with you off of appearances or off of general theming, and just pick it up. $10 for a compact is not a bad deal at all. This one's Batman and Son, the most recent one that I just acquired. It is kind of small, so you might have to bust out a microscope to read it a little bit, but for $10, you really are just, you're getting what you can. And I just like collecting them. They're cool. Standouts for DC. Shout out to Panelbound Comics. I got a full set of the Green Lantern by Jeff Johns Omni run from them just to promote their sale going on for GL. So that was really cool. Shout out to them. Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Hard Traveling Heroes, dives into relationship between Hal Jordan and Oliver Queen. Their friendship, super underrated. That Omni is a must-have. Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison is a name you'll hear come up a lot. Whether or not you like his theming and his writing, or you like the characters that he's writing for, you just can't deny that he has something special about his narratives that he strings together. A C-list team like Doom Patrol, he can make it so well done. Same with Animal Man. Like, who knows what Animal Man is prior to reading this, but this omnibus is also a classic. Like, he writes so many classics. On the top, I guess, last two things I want to shout out. Catwoman of East End. I feel like a lot of people haven't read Catwoman. This is the definitive Catwoman run. Not really going to talk about Catwoman When in Rome because it's hard to acquire that physically, and also it's only like 4 issues. So this one by Ed Brubaker, it's a lot bigger. You get a lot more content, gives you a good idea of the character. And also, you absolutely have to check out Batman Superman, World's Finest. This is an ongoing run, still coming out every single month. Has been going on for the last few years. And it's a team up between Mark Waid and Dan Mora, so two of the greatest creatives in the DC space right now. And they are just making some of the most fun and easy to read, but also heartwarming stories, including The Dark Knight and The Man of Steel. The art's just awesome, but collecting it in this hardcover deluxe format is a treat. I don't want to rant forever, but moving down to the last end of the alphabet for DC, I do have to say Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, severely underrated at this point. I feel like everyone knows about it, but no one's read it. Super good. And then something on my TBR that I just acquired is The Question, the run by Dennis O'Neil and Dennis Cohen. I've heard a lot of good things. Just gonna bust this out some nights and then read a few issues here and there, but really excited to get to that. And now it's Marvel time. If you were to ask me DC or Marvel, I'm gonna answer DC in a heartbeat, but that does not mean I don't love Marvel. I love Marvel so much. Not as many omnibuses, so I have them kind of individually allocated, but we have Daredevil by Nocenti, Immortal Hulk, Superior Spider-Man, which is extremely overlooked as a Spider-Man run, but it's really good. It's got hype moments. It's written pretty well. Dan Slott is one of the best writers of modern Spider-Man. I suggest every Spider-Man fan give that a read. And then one of the definitive runs for Thor recently, the Jason Aaron run, got that Omni Volume 1 recently. And then, of course, potentially the greatest Marvel extended run of all time, Ultimate Spider-Man by Bendis and Bagley. have the first two for that one. I can't wait for the other ones to get reprinted so I can move on with that. We're going to get to our last bit of books on the bottom two shelves here. So I forgot there actually is a bit more DC here. I have the DC Finest and then Marvel Epic collections on this shelf just because they really fit next to each other. So these are the big two's way to get readers to read older comic runs in just like a very straightforward fashion. For Marvel, I've really only taken an interest in Daredevil. This is a Nocenti volume, as well as Spider-Man, which includes, like the older stuff, as well as some of the more modern stuff with Dan Slott, and then Ultimate Spider-Man, Bendis Bagley again, and then I got some X-Men over there. And DC kind of collects it in a similar way, but instead of as straightforward volumes, they're just collecting iconic storylines by those well-known writers, characters. I've got a bunch of Batman, they do events, there's Green Arrow, Doom Patrol, Wonder Woman. So it's a great way to read the more older iconic stories from DC. Finally, we're getting to the smaller Marvel collected editions, our trades on the bottom. At the end is pretty much all the ultimate stuff. I have like all the trades now of the 2024 Ultimate Universe, or 2023, I guess is when it started. Major call out here is Moon Knight by Lemire. His run on Moon Knight is collected in, I believe, 12 issues, or 14 issues, my bad. But you can get the entire thing in this one trade. And it's probably what people will call a top one or top two most defining runs of Moon Knight in the modern era. So I would give that one a read. It's awesome. Next up, we have the Marvel Color Series. So we got Spider-Man Blue, Hulk Gray, Daredevil Yellow, and Captain America White. I've been talking about Spider-Man a lot today, so maybe I'll showcase Daredevil. But these are all insanely well-crafted love stories by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. I'm also just a really big Daredevil guy, I guess. So I have some of the Daredevil trades. They're not in as much printing or in circulation as I would have liked them to, so I don't have any complete runs like I do for a lot of DC stuff. But I'm sure you guys have heard of Daredevil by Frank Miller. This is volume 1. He basically has the original pioneering definitive run for Daredevil. And there's really nothing bad I could say about it. I think I just have a bias towards old-fashioned comic book storytelling, so anything in like the 70s, 80s, it's really just going to scratch that itch. The last thing I want to showcase, similar to DC Compacts, are Marvel premieres. So premiere collections are the answer that Marvel had to the affordable compact versioning that DC had released. Marvel's kind of losing out on this one because they are charging $15 for a small trade. So this one, Secret Wars, just came out last week. But if I had to pick one, I would actually say I do like the Marvel Premiere Collection better. It's 50% more expensive, but you can feel that in the quality of the print. You can feel that in the quality of the spine, the picture quality inside the books. You just feel better reading them. And the stories I think that are selected for Marvel Premiere Collection just a little bit better than Marvel or DC Compact Comics, because in DC Compact Comics, I'm not gonna lie, you have some stuff that is just like not that great. You have Wonder Woman Earth 1, and don't even ask why I have this if I don't think it's that great. I'm just a collector. But like Wonder Woman Earth 1, Batman Hush is iconic, but it's not that great. Superman Red Sun, is it great? Yeah, but do we need that in a compact? Not really. Far Sector, I know some people really like, but it's just not like universally one of the best things ever. Marvel Premiere really has yet to miss. We just got Time Runs Out. We got Avengers Secret Wars, Visions by Tom King, Planet Hulk, Hawkeye, Life as a Weapon by Matt Fraction. A lot of people love that. We got Daredevil, Born Again, Frank Miller. I don't even need to say anything about that. One of the best runs of all time. They're just so awesome. All right, so thank you guys so much if you made it to the end for joining me on my bookshelf tour and kind of just talking through the books. I probably rambled on for way too long, but if you need recommendations you can hit me up. If you want to recommend me to read something, you can hit me up as well. I'd love to hear what you guys are reading, what you guys have on your to be read list, what you guys are looking to collect. Super open to start a dialogue and really want to see what everyone's looking to read because there's never any shortage of good material. It's just what we are capable of hearing about on social media, what we hear from word of mouth. So there's probably some amazing stories that I've never heard of, even though I read a ton of comics. But yeah, I'm looking to do a video to cover some of the indie stuff because I have a bunch of indie comics as well. My profile picture is literally invincible, and I didn't even talk about that because that's with the Walking Dead, that's with the Transformers, that's with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in another room on a different bookshelf. And while talking about indies, I might also talk about manga. So, my intro to comics was actually Eastern comics. I read a lot of manga, watched a lot of anime, and that's kind of what got me into comics more heavily. So, if you guys are interested, I would definitely love to talk about that. But thank you for hearing me yap for probably way too long. I hope you have a great rest of your day and keep reading.